It's time for a garden tour. Hey everyone, and welcome to my July garden tour. It's actually raining a little bit right now, but this is the last week of July, so I needed to go ahead and get this done. And I have been procrastinating. And when the rain started, I thought, oh, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, but no day like the present. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk you guys through my July garden tour. I can't wait to show you everything that is blooming right now, everything that's growing. There's been a lot of changes in the garden since June. So without further ado, let's hop right into my July 2021 summer garden tour. Okay, and as usual, here's my full view of this side of my yard where my garden is, just as the air conditioner kicks on. So you guys, if you wanted to go back month by month and kind of look and compare how the garden has grown and changed over the last several months of this gardening season, I like to give you a full overview of how things are looking. And even if you don't want to go back, I want to go back eventually, probably over the winter when the garden isn't looking as lush, and just remind myself about how things can change so quickly and the seasons can change so quickly. And even if I'm experiencing a season where I'm missing the garden, it'll be back soon enough. So this is how it's looking right now. I always started those first raised beds. They are at the beginning of the garden, but I'm going to take a different path this time. I'm going to start towards the back of the garden and then work my way towards the front. So here we are. Towards the back. I'm going to show you guys what's going on in these back beds right here and then work my way that way. This is a silver Yamato. The last few weeks it hasn't really grown much in size. I think right now it's just ripening up. But this is a white flesh watermelon that I want to save seeds from. I actually have two plants here, and then this vine actually comes out and a new watermelon just popped up on there. And then over here in this in-ground bed I have cucumbers in these tomato cages and some zinnias here kind of in between. I mainly have these zinnias here so that when the cucumbers start blooming, bees will be attracted to these flowers and then can come pollinate the cucumbers. Because I have cucumbers at the beginning of the garden, I'm not sure if anything's been pollinated yet. But these are sugar baby watermelon, and right here I was just kind of working on a DIY trellis with some bamboo stakes and some string. And so far, they seem to be growing just fine. And then here on the other side of this bed are some dark green zucchini that I just planted out a couple weeks ago. So they're right next to this watermelon and cucumber bed. The zucchini. And then next to them I have, this is a pink banana squash. And this is my first time growing this. Someone actually gave me one in the winter. They gave it to me. I want to say it was like January or February, maybe. Might have been March. I think it was March. Someone gave me seeds for this. So I wasn't sure how big they would get, but so far it's starting to kind of creep over into my squash bed. Over here, I would just like to mention that I have a couple volunteer beets. I originally had beets in this bed, and some did go to seed, but I didn't think any actually would volunteer, but they did. And then these are lilies that have been long gone, but they stay in the ground until they fully die back, and then I can either choose to move them or cut them down and leave them where they are. So those are the pink banana squash. That is a weed. That's two weeds that I really need to pull up, but have not yet. And then next to the pink banana squash, those are bush beans. kind of want to pan over from, that's the watermelon, cucumber, and zinnias. And then this I just planted this past week. These are basil. So I plan on using these for tea and then also for cut flower arrangements. Basil has been one of my favorite greeneries to use ever since my first succession really started to take off. So I have these first 2 rows are cinnamon basil, and then I think I have like those back for our lemon basil, I think. And then I have 2 okra plants back here towards the back. There used to be two chocolate cherry sunflowers here that really shaded those out, so they're a little bit behind. And there was originally 2 more okra up here, but the sunflower shaded it out so bad that it kind of just died off. So these are actually starting to produce a couple okra. So I'm really looking forward to those actually taking off. I put them here because this wall radiates a lot of heat. So I was thinking that these could take it, and I think they're doing just fine. I think they're just not getting the ample amount of sunlight. But next to them, I have these beautiful zinnias. I actually came through and cut most of the flowers that I had on them, literally just like 2 or 3 days ago. So they're just now starting to come back, but you can see closer there's several buds starting to form, so, and some kind of beetle. But I haven't seen any bug damage on the leaves really. I am starting to get what I think is powdery mildew, but I have been stripping some of the leaves when they get, like you can see some of them over here are really having a hard time. So I've been stripping some of those when they get like that. But I do have another succession that I put in that's just starting to bloom. So if these get bad, I can always rip these up. And I have about 50 more zinnia seedlings that I can put in the ground. And this bed I'm like super excited about because last year I think I grew 2 okra plants. And we got like, you know, a fair amount of okra, not like a ton to where we could have huge like side dishes. So I was really looking forward to growing more okra this year. And these plants, I have 3, 1, 2, and 3. These 3 are doing the best out of all of them. There's also one here on the corner that's not as far along as these 3. I don't know why these 3 are doing so well, but I'm very pleased that they are. And then I have a gomphrena there. These are all bush beans here at the front. And then I just kind of sprinkled buckwheat throughout. I've been liking to use the, I have been liking the buckwheat in cut flower arrangements. So I just use that as another greenery and accent flower. And I have a bunch throughout here that I've already cut out. And then all those seedlings right there are buckwheat as well. So what I think I'm going to do is just continue to go through and just fill in all these like little patches with the buckwheat because they don't take up much space, but they make a really cute, fun filler, and they're fast growing, and then they help suppress weeds. So that's my new tactic, is to just try to fill in as many empty spaces as I can with buckwheat. I bought a 2-pound bag, so however far that takes me, but I'm really pleased with how these snapdragons have been growing. I have a couple random beets here, which probably could be pulled pretty soon, but have not been eating them, so I'm just kind of leaving them there to grow. But these snapdragons have produced and produced and produced, so I'm really pleased. I thought they would have petered out as soon as summer hit, but they're just putting on another flush of flowers, which has been really exciting for me and just motivating me to grow even more snapdragons next year. Here across the front, these are all cinnamon basil, which I have been enjoying in tea, and when plants get a little bit longer and start to go to seed like this, I like to use them in the cut flower arrangements. My bush beans, some of them have flowers and are starting to form these tiny beans. I love this. I just like brush past it and I just get this beautiful aroma of the cinnamon basil, and it's so nice. But I'm excited with how this okra is doing. So we'll come back here. I have a pomegranate tree here, which I really need to go through and cut all this grass. That is a roselle, another roselle, and this is a currant bush. I think they might be red currants. I didn't get any currants this year, but because these are all new canes, so I should get currants next year on the 1-year-old canes. This wall, which I know I said it before, but it retains a lot of heat. So I have a lot of wasted space back here because I'm nervous about plants overheating, especially during the summer. And so far, as far as I can tell, this roselle, even in the heat of the day, I have never seen it wilt. Like I see my squash plants, my cucumber plants, and they're not even near a super hot microclimate. So what I think I want to do next year, even though what I have noticed is this roselle has grown a little bit more slowly than some of the other ones. I think part of that also is because it's out here, I don't water it as much, but I think next year if I keep up with watering, it'll grow as quickly as the other roselle. I'm not sure yet if it'll perennialize for me. Here in zone 8A, there is a chance that it could. I'm not sure if it will though. So in most regions, roselle is an annual. So I'm probably just gonna grow it as an annual because where I have them right now, I don't know if I want to have that same placement next year. There is a hummingbird behind me. I don't know if I want to have that same placement next year, but I'll show you what I want to do next year with the roselle. I have this roselle here, and I think what I want to do next year is just come 3 feet away from the wall, which is like the same distance this bed is 3 feet from the wall. And I want to line this whole back wall with wood chips, but then 3 feet in front of it, line it with roselle plants and have roselle just going the length of this back wall. Because so far they've been able to withstand the heat. These are weeds over here, but I want to say those are just volunteer squash plants. And I want to say that's pigweed over there, which actually kind of reminded me of my amaranth. And then my compost pile, which has pumpkins in it. So I'll have a bunch of volunteer pumpkins in my compost pile. And then we started a new compost pile. Once those started growing, we started a new compost pile so that those can continue to grow. Okay, and then I'll swing you around and give you a view of the garden from over here. This is a 12-foot by 3-foot bed, and these are all sunflowers. These are all the Pro-Cut, and I was just showing you guys the zinnias, and those are the snapdragons. And then I'll take you to this bed here and then show you there and there. Okay, so here's a close-up of that raised bed, the back of it, if you're standing over on that side. But I have, this is one plant, one roselle plant, a second roselle plant. Well, there's a really small one down there. And then there's this one here, which has completely like exceeded my expectations with its growth. I knew these things would get big and wide, but I was kidding myself when I planted this here. I thought it would get taller faster than it got wider, and it just got extremely wide, and it's taking up way more space than I thought. There's also some eggplants in this bed, which I'll show you in just a second. So I'm probably going to end up, as much as I don't want to, if it gets out of control and starts choking out the eggplants, I am going to have to cut back the roselle if it does that, because I really want the eggplants to make it to fruition, because I actually lost several of those eggplants. They're called pumpkin on a stick, and I wanted to use them for fall flower arrangements. So once those are done though, I can rip those out and the roselle will still be going. So those are the roselle, another view of the roselle. There's a eucalyptus back there in that pot. And then here in the corner of this bed is a silver Yamato watermelon. And it has a melon right there. I wasn't sure if it was actually going to produce because you can see how long these vines are. And they go around. And that it just produced that melon maybe like a week and a half ago. So over here, I am in love with this dahlia. I was not successful in growing dahlias last year, and I almost did not grow them this year because I did not have confidence that I would be able to get them to grow. And so after watching several YouTube videos and figuring out what I needed to do as far as starting them inside, I am happy to report that they have been a success, and they're so gorgeous. There's a bug in there. This variety is called Arabian Night. These are, I guess, called decorative ball dahlias. I don't know if this is a ball dahlia, but it's decorative because it's shorter. So you can see the stem length is not super long. Like, it would bud from like here for the next flower, but if I want an adequate stem length to use in an arrangement, I'm gonna have to cut it like all the way down here, which it will still bud from there. But yeah, I am so pleased with how these are growing. I did lose a couple. They dampened off. They were from cuttings, not from tubers. So the ones that are doing really well, those are from tubers, and I want to say this one was from a cutting. And I want to say that one was from a tuber just because it's so prolific. And then that one might have been from a cutting as well. So I only had 3 tubers, but now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants. I actually have 6. I have one on the other side that was from a cutting. But these are the pumpkin on a stick plants. I'll give you a close-up of what the little eggplants look like. They're so cute. They start off green, and then once they start to ripen, they'll turn a bright orange. And then when you use them in the arrangements, you just strip off all the foliage, and you just use the stalks that they're growing on. So there's another little bug there. I don't know if anyone is good with identifying bugs. Please let me know what this is, if it's gonna hurt my dahlias. Anyway, I also have some gorgeous dwarf marigolds here in the front, and I started several more because I want to have them available for Dia de los Muertos. And then I have that raised bed, which I haven't done anything to yet, and we are going to skip those 2 because those are all dead tomatoes and dead calendula, and all that's over there is Swiss chard and some sugar baby watermelons. Okay, and then right here is a succession of sunflowers. I have 2 more little okras right there. So at some point, I'm really hoping that all these okras, which I have 2, 3 right there, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8, and then there's 1 way over there. So that's 9 okra plants. That's about 3 times as many as I had last year. So I'm really hoping to get a good stand of okra by the fall. So these are more pro-cut sunflowers, and then across the back here is celosia. I'm really looking forward to using that as a foliage in my cut flowers, and you guys can see that I mulched here with some shredded paper and shredded paperboard. This jungle is the Kajari melon, which grew way more than I had expected. Other gardeners on YouTube grow the Kajari melon, and a lot of them were growing it up like cattle panels, and they had some foliage, but I have no idea how many plants other people planted, and I had assumed it was more than 1, but thinking back to the amount of foliage that I saw on the cattle panels, maybe it was just 1 or 2, because I have 6 I had originally 6 plants here, and then I added 2 more, and I'm not sure if both survived, but there is so much foliage here, And yeah, I want to say there's at least 6 or 7 melons on the vine right now, and I have already harvested 6. So this is the second flush, and I'm willing to bet that it'll probably still keep producing until frost. But I'll take you in closer so you can see some of the Kajari melons. Okay, so this is what they look like. They're super cute. They're about the size of a softball. And they have this green, they're green with the white stripes, and then when they're ready to harvest, this green actually turns orange, which is super cool. See, there's just so much foliage. So I definitely want to grow these again next year, but I think next year I will grow them up a cattle panel, just so that it's not so I can keep better track of everything. You can see there's another melon down there. There's one hanging there. And they just kind of like find their own way, which is cool. There's one there. There's one there and one there. It's almost like a little treasure hunt. These little melons are so fun. And they're good. There's one there. And then there's one there. And I need to cut all this grass. There's one there. So, oh, and then there's another one there. So it's hard to see all the melon with the amount of foliage that's on here, but I'm very, very pleased with how these have grown. There's some right here that I guess didn't get fully pollinated, but yeah, I think I mentioned that they taste like a honeydew, and at least one of my kids enjoys them. At least one of my kids enjoys the Kajari melon. I like it too. I'm not a huge fan of honeydew, but I think the taste is good. What I want to do is probably combine it with strawberry and blend it up and freeze them into popsicles. Maybe add some Greek yogurt, and I think all my kids will eat it like that. So next to the Kajari melon, I have my first round of zucchini. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. It has cooled down so much. It was in the upper 80s earlier, and everything was wilted. So I need to water out here, but we had a week of temperatures being in the low 80s, upper 70s. So I think everything was starting to get used to those cooler temperatures. So then today, when it got like upper 80s, almost 90, everything was like, yeah. So let's take a look at the zucchini. This is what the zucchini is looking like. Y'all, this is the longest I've grown zucchini before, so I did not realize that zucchini actually does kind of vine out the older that it gets, because this, for example, I planted it here in the middle of this bed, and now it has trailed its way over into this pathway, so I can't walk in this pathway anymore, but it's still producing. You can see some blossoms, some new female blossoms that have come up. You can see a couple that have died off that weren't pollinated. I had so much foliage in here. I just pruned these not too long ago, but I had so much foliage and weeds and grass here that I think the bees were just bypassing it, so a lot of stuff didn't get pollinated. So now that I have a couple more flowers blooming here and I've cut down the weeds in the grass, hopefully I won't have to hand pollinate anything. But this is how the squash is looking. There's one right there that I need to get. But yeah, I think these yellow zinnias do a good job at attracting the bees. And they're usually out here early in the morning. Okay, we're gonna go over here and then we'll work our way to the arches. Okay, so these actually grew much more quickly. I thought I was gonna at least need another 2 weeks before I could start cutting from these, but some of them have started blooming like super fast. Okay, I randomly threw some loofah plants in here because I didn't have anywhere to put them. Who knows if they'll stay or not, but they're there for now and they're growing. I have one there and one there. I'm just gonna let them grow along the ground and see what they do. Another sunflower. And then I want to say these are all the same variety. It's called like Double Enchantress. zinnia, and they're all this really pretty light pink. So they're all the same, but they still have variations in color. So these might be ready to cut soon. Yeah. So I might make a couple of bouquets this coming week. But I love when it's overcast. Everything looks super green. Okay, let's work our way over here. Like I said, we're skipping those two. But yeah, that's part of gardening. Those died. I hadn't really been watering them very well. But you can see they did fruit, and I did harvest some tomatoes off of them. And then over here is more Swiss chard and another dying tomato. But in this bed, I have some golden beets that need to be weeded. And these are more pink banana squash. So we'll see. I planted them so that they could kind of trail out of the box, but that vine is starting to go that way, which I do plan on just going in with a grass knife and just cutting all that grass down. There's some buckwheat there that I had tried to put there to suppress weeds, but you guys can see how well it is suppressing the weeds. A random piece of strawberry popcorn that I planted, just one. That's the only one that germinated for me, so I figured I would still let it live its life. And then my sugar baby watermelon, and I have a loofah underneath that watermelon vine and a second loofah plant underneath that watermelon vine. I did not realize how early you could plant loofah, so it is a little bit late in the season. Some people who are growing loofah, their plant is already over their entire trellis, but that's okay. Oh, look! I did not realize I had a little loofah there. So female flower, I have not seen any male flowers on this plant. I didn't even realize this female one was here, so who knows if it got pollinated or not. I don't see any male flowers. This is all the sugar baby vine right here. And I don't see any male flowers on my other loofah. But this sugar baby, it's not ready yet. I'm supposed to wait till this dies, turns brown, and then I can harvest it. But this is significantly bigger than my first one. It's very pretty. I love this dark color. But yeah, I'm excited for when that's ready. So I have 1, 2, 3. There's another watermelon over there. I have 3 melons on the way. And then underneath this will come around on the outside. This is a loofah plant, and that's a loofah plant. So I have at least 7 loofah plants growing, so hopefully I get at least one. Those are my Shasta daisies. Never got any flowers this year, so I am sure I'll get flowers next year. And then here's the back side of the loofah vines. I want to try to weave them a little bit better, so they'll be kind of like, I want them to take up the whole cattle panel. But look, there's another. Let's see. There's another loofah right there. I did not realize they got fruit so quickly. That's awesome. And then these are gladiolas that I need to pull out. I've been waiting for them to get like that. Although this one actually, yeah, I was like, this one might have rotted, and it did. So that's unfortunate, but yeah, this one did too. Okay, so I guess that's my sign to go ahead and dig them up before they rot, because we had a lot of rains over the past couple weeks, and I guess that did those in. From everything I was watching on YouTube, other gardeners said that you need to let your gladiola die back in the fall before you dig it up, but when they're dying, they're rotting. So I think what I'm going to do is probably just dig them up tomorrow and then just let the leaves die off inside so that they don't rot. I'm going to show you this side of the cattle panel, which I love. This is like the look that I'm going for over the entire panel. So I think what I want to do next year is plant my cucumbers way earlier, because I want this cattle panel covered like from spring through the fall up until frost. And this is the first time that there's actually been like the possibility of the cattle panel being covered because of these 4 cucumber plants here. And I'm so thankful. I'm really excited for whenever it's fully covered. But these are growing so well. Now in the heat of the day, these do wilt a little bit, but they look so beautiful right now. So let's take a closer look. The back side of the cucumbers. I don't have any cucumbers on here right now, but there are so many blooms. You guys can see all the flowers in here. And how tall it's starting to get. Well, there's 4 plants in here and they're starting to get really tall and they're vining out. I don't know if I should get some tomato clips or twine or something. They're doing a really good job kind of securing themselves to the cattle panel. But like the ones down here, I kind of want to get them off the ground and back up onto the cattle panel. So I just absolutely love the way this looks. I definitely am going to try to get my cucumbers planted way earlier next year so I can have this arch filled, and then it can act as a microclimate with providing some shade. So over here I have some really gorgeous lettuces that struggled a little bit with today's heat, but gosh, they put on a lot of size within the last couple of days. So see some ants in here helping to pollinate. But the lettuce, oh, it rained a little bit. I was like, why is this wet? It rained a little bit. So the lettuce is cool and crisp now. I haven't harvested any of this. I want it to get big enough to start shading out the soil so it can kind of work on keeping itself cool. So yeah, I'm actually gonna let these become heads. These are romaine. And then back there I have peppermint. And I also want this to kind of, once all these are done, I really want this peppermint to pretty much take up this whole bed. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. So here's my tunnel with the cucumber, peppermint, lettuce, the Shasta daisies, gladiolas. Those lilies back there, I don't talk about because I planted them in the most horrible spot that they could have been planted in. I just wanted to come back by the dahlias as I sign off, and thank you so much for joining me for my garden tour today. I know that there's been a couple of people who have been asking me about it, and I sure did wait to the last minute. So whenever I do my garden tours, I do try to do them on Sundays because those are the days that actually like am wearing something besides my pajamas, because we go to church on Sundays, and so I'll actually do my makeup and such. But yeah, so this is the last Sunday of the month, so yeah, I waited to the last minute there, but thanks so much for being patient with me, and thanks for sticking around to watch my garden tour. But I appreciate you guys watching and following along on my journey, and I look forward to showing you more in the future. So until next time, keep learning and keep growing.